There comes a moment, brother, when silence stops feeling like an empty space you're trying to fill. It becomes something deeper, something calm, something almost sacred. The silence between you and her, the one that once felt heavy and awkward, now feels like peace. You stop checking your phone every few minutes, stop hoping to see her name flash on your screen, stop waiting for that one message that you thought would make everything make sense. You realize you don't need that message anymore. You don't need the apology, the explanation, or the closure you used to crave. Because you've grown past that version of yourself, the one who lived in anticipation, the one who kept trying to rewrite the ending in her favor. You've learned to live with the silence and to find meaning in it. That's when everything changes. That's when you feel a shift deep inside, a freedom you can't fully explain. You wake up one morning and her absence doesn't sting like it used to. Her memory doesn't hurt. The ache fades into understanding. You realize that peace is not something she could ever give you, it's something you had to build yourself. And once you find that, everything about the dynamic between you and her transforms. She might not understand it at first, but energy doesn't lie. She'll feel that you're no longer attached, no longer orbiting around her. And that's when she starts to feel your absence, not because you punished her, but because you've finally detached from needing her. You've stopped chasing, stopped hoping, stopped bleeding for something that was never meant to complete you. That's evolution, brother. That's the quiet rebirth of a man who no longer seeks validation from someone else, because he's finally found it within himself. The first thing she notices, even before you say a word, is the shift in your energy. Women have an instinct for that, brother. They can feel it before they even see it. When you used to chase her, she could sense it in the way you texted, the way you waited, the way you gave your attention without hesitation. She could feel the tension behind your words, that quiet desperation that said, "I hope she still wants me." Every time you waited for her reply, every time you overthought her silence, you were giving off an energy that told her she still had power over you. But something changes the moment you stop needing her. It's subtle, but it's powerful. That energy you used to pour into her starts flowing back into you. You stand taller. You speak slower. You move with purpose instead of anxiety. Suddenly, you're no longer trying to be seen, you're just being, and that's what catches her off guard. She feels the difference without you needing to explain it. You no longer react to her like before. You're calm, grounded, unpredictable. You shifted from chasing her to simply existing in your own lane, detached from her validation. That confuses her, because the attention she once took for granted isn't there anymore. It's not hostility, it's neutrality, and that's what makes it powerful. She starts wondering what changed, what she did, why you don't seem affected anymore. What she doesn't realize is that your peace has become stronger than her pull. She can sense that your energy no longer bends around her. You're no longer trying to win her back. You've stepped out of her orbit completely, and that quiet confidence speaks louder than any words ever could. The second thing that happens is simple but powerful: her validation stops working. Before, she had control without even realizing it. A single post, a subtle story, a random hey was all it took to pull you back in. You'd see it, and instantly your mind would start racing. You'd wonder what she meant, if maybe she was missing you, if maybe this was her way of reaching out. You'd respond because deep down, you still wanted to believe there was something left. And every time you responded, she felt reassured that you still cared, that she still had access to your emotions. But when you start to heal, when you reclaim your self-control, her tricks no longer work. You see the pattern for what it is: a test, a small attempt to see if she still matters to you. But instead of reacting, you stay calm. You don't ignore her out of anger, you simply understand that you no longer need to engage. And that realization, that quiet self-control, begins to unsettle her. She doesn't understand why her charm doesn't move you anymore. The same attention that once made her feel important now goes unanswered. That's when the panic sets in. Because it's not really about losing you, it's about losing her ability to affect you. The moment she realizes that her validation no longer controls your emotions, something shifts in her too. She begins to see you differently, not as the man who used to chase, but as the man who's finally centered. You've become steady, focused, untouchable. And whether she admits it or not, that change earns her respect. A man who cannot be emotionally manipulated becomes a man she remembers differently, a man she might finally start to see with new eyes, but too late. Then comes the part she never expected, the moment she starts to remember your calm. At first, she might have mistaken it for boredom. Maybe she thought your consistency was dull, that your predictability lacked excitement. She didn't realize that what she called boring was actually stability, something rare in a world built on temporary attention and emotional chaos. When she left, she might have thought she was walking towards something better, something more thrilling, but soon enough she learns the truth. Out there, people talk loud but say nothing. Attention is cheap, and peace is rare. And slowly, she starts to remember what it felt like to be around you, the way you carried yourself, the steady tone in your voice, the way you made things feel safe without ever needing to say much. She remembers that being around you didn't drain her, it grounded her. The calm that once felt too quiet now becomes the very thing she craves. You weren't trying to impress her, you were simply being real, and that authenticity stands out when the noise fades. The truth always comes back in silence. It's not during the parties or the nights filled with distractions that she feels it, it's in the quiet moments, when the lights are off and the phone is still. That's when your memory hits hardest. She realizes that you weren't just another man in her life, you were a rare kind of peace she didn't know how to appreciate. And by the time that understanding settles in, it's too late, because you've already learned to find that peace within yourself. You've become the calm she now misses, the silence she once ran from, and the comfort she can't seem to find anywhere else. This is where things start to twist inside her, where her ego begins to wrestle with her emotions. On the surface, she tells herself she doesn't care. She convinces herself that she's fine, that she's moved on, that losing you didn't matter. She tells her friends stories about how she's better without you, how she's focused on herself, how she doesn't even think about you anymore. But her actions quietly betray her words. Late at night, when the noise fades and her guard drops, she finds herself checking your profile, wondering what you're doing, who you're with, and whether you've forgotten her completely. She'll scroll through old messages, not because she wants to go back, but because she's trying to feel that old connection again, even for a second. That's when the conflict begins. Her ego wants to maintain control, to stay proud and untouchable, but her heart starts to whisper the truth, that she does miss you, that she does feel your absence. And every time she sees that you're unbothered, that you're at peace, that you've stopped chasing her, the unease grows stronger. She starts realizing that the power she once had over your emotions is gone, and nothing unsettles a person more than losing influence they once took for granted. You've become something she can't manipulate, something she can't predict. You're not angry, not bitter, not seeking closure, you're just free. And that freedom, that calm detachment, is something her ego can't compete with. It's not revenge, it's evolution. You've moved beyond her emotional reach, and she feels that in every quiet moment she tries to deny it. The man she thought would always be there simply isn't, and that truth echoes louder than any argument ever could. At this stage, she begins to test your silence. It won't always be obvious at first. It might come as a random text, something casual like, "Hey, how have you been?" or "I saw something that reminded me of you." Maybe she reacts to one of your stories, or drops a harmless emoji under your post, pretending it means nothing. But it's never just small talk. It's a test, a subtle probe to see if the old version of you still exists, the one who'd jump at any sign of her attention. She wants to know if she still has access to your emotions, if her presence still affects your peace. And this is the moment where many men fall back into the trap. They mistake her curiosity for interest, her message for reconciliation. But brother, you've got to understand, this isn't about wanting you back, it's about her ego needing reassurance that she still matters. Your silence, however, isn't punishment, it's your power. You've reached a point where you don't need to prove anything anymore. You're not ignoring her to win, you're choosing peace because it costs too much to lose it again. Every time you resist replying, every time you hold your boundary firm, you teach her something words never could, that your peace is now worth more than her attention. That's when the shift truly begins inside her. She starts to realize that she no longer controls the emotional rhythm between you. And that quiet realization, the understanding that your world no longer revolves around her, begins to humble her. It makes her see what she never did before, that silence can speak louder than any response, and that your calm indifference carries more strength than her validation ever could. In time, she starts to truly see who you were all along. When you were available, she only saw what she wanted to see. Maybe she thought you were too nice, too easy to read, too willing to give. She mistook your consistency for weakness and your patience for passivity. But when you finally walked away, something shifted in her perception. Suddenly, the things she once dismissed begin to stand out in her memory. She starts to recall how you listened without judgment, how you offered calm when she brought chaos, how you stood steady even when things got uncertain. The very qualities she overlooked start to become the ones she now compares others to. Out in the world, she encounters people who talk big but disappear when things get hard, people who say the right words but can't deliver real peace. And that's when it hits her: you weren't boring, you were real. You weren't weak, you were devoted. You weren't too available, you were emotionally present in a world full of distractions. That realization doesn't come with an apology or a message. It comes quietly, during the moments she least expects it. She'll be scrolling through her phone, see your name somewhere, and for a second, that old feeling returns, not of possession, but of comfort. She realizes she lost something solid, something genuine. But by the time she understands your worth, you've already detached from needing her to see it. You no longer need her validation to confirm what you've always known about yourself. That's when the power fully returns to you, not through revenge or regret, but through clarity. You became the lesson she didn't know she was learning, and the memory she won't ever be able to shake, no matter how much time passes. Eventually, something inside you begins to shift too. It's not just about her anymore, it's about understanding yourself on a level you never did before. You start to see through the illusion, realizing that what you were chasing wasn't her, but what her love represented. You believed that her approval would validate your worth, that being chosen by her meant you were enough. But now, with distance and silence, you begin to see clearly. Her rejection wasn't a reflection of your inadequacy, it was a redirection toward your evolution. She was never meant to complete you, she was meant to challenge you, to reveal the parts of you that needed healing. All the pain, the confusion, the late nights questioning your value, they were never for nothing. They were the forge that built your strength. You start to take accountability, not for losing her, but for losing yourself in her. You understand that love without self-respect isn't love at all, it's dependency. And that's what you've outgrown. You no longer crave validation from anyone because you've learned to validate yourself. You rebuild your purpose piece by piece, focusing your energy on growth, discipline, and peace. The same silence that once felt unbearable becomes your sanctuary. You stop reacting, stop proving, stop needing. You realize that her part in your story was to awaken the man you were meant to become, the one who leads with purpose, not emotion. And once you reach that point, everything that used to consume you begins to fade. The pain becomes wisdom. The longing turns into gratitude. You finally understand that losing her wasn't the end of your story, it was the beginning of your rebirth, the turning point that transformed heartbreak into power, and confusion into absolute clarity. And then comes the final transformation, the quiet evolution that doesn't need an audience or applause. You don't post about it, you don't announce it, you simply become it. You rise, slowly and steadily, from everything that once broke you. There's no bitterness left, no need to prove anything to anyone. The version of you that used to overthink, chase, and seek validation has faded into silence. Now, your focus is sharper, your energy more grounded. You've learned to find beauty in stillness, strength in solitude, and meaning in discipline. The pain that once felt like a curse has become the very thing that forged your purpose. You begin to live differently, not louder, but deeper. Your goals start to matter more than your grudges, your peace means more than any person, and your growth becomes your quiet revenge. You stop chasing love and start embodying it in how you move, speak, and treat yourself. And when she sees that, when she realizes that the man she once took for granted has become everything she secretly desired but couldn't handle, that's when the full weight of loss hits her. Because now, she can't reach you, not emotionally, not mentally, not spiritually. You've risen too far beyond the place where she left you. You don't hate her, you don't wish her harm, you simply no longer need her to define your worth. That's real freedom, brother. That's peace earned through pain. You finally understand that closure was never something she could give you, it was something you created by letting go. And in that stillness, in that quiet strength, you discover the truth: you never lost her, you found yourself. And that, in the end, is the greatest victory a man can ever achieve.